Here we are again, folks. Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. So proud to be with you today. We did Psalm 25. We looked at David in Psalm 25 and how that he followed the Lord and how he tried his best on a daily basis to follow the Lord. But let's look in Psalm 26 and see what he said. For thy name's sake, in verse 11, O Lord, pardon mine iniquities, for it is great. David was a human man, one of the greatest men that ever lived, but he also was one of the greatest sinners that ever lived. He had a problem daily with the word sin, S-I-N. What is sin? Sin is doing the opposite of what God would have us do. In spite of the fact that daily David feared the Lord. Daily David said, teach me thy ways. Oh, and his soul got exceedingly sorrowful at times. And you'll see some of the Psalms that he wrote, he was so sorrowful for the things that he had done. He allowed himself to slip back into what the world would have him do. David was in a physical body just like you and I. And the devil never let up. He never lets up. This body is carnal. This body was made and sold in sin. And Adam sinned and you and I took up that sin nature. And that crazy nature is going to follow us to the grave. It is going to follow you and I to the grave. If you follow God any way, shape, or form, you're going to have to purpose to do it. You are going to have to purpose to follow God, or you will not follow God. You ask Him to save you, come into your heart, and keep you from evil and all that, but your body is a body that's sold unto sin. And if you don't keep your mind and your heart stayed on the Lord day and night, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, you will fall into sin and degradation, and you will be exceedingly unhappy when you do. And the only way you can get back happy is to put your soul back on the shelf that it belongs on with God and say, Lord, forgive me and give me the ability to get out from under this oppression I'm under because I have sinned. And then you've got to put it behind you. You will always be. I know more oppressed Christians than you can count. I'm talking about people who actually are saved, who actually are going to die and go to heaven when they die, but they are exceedingly sorrowful because they will not put this sin behind them. Now, there is a thing that God requires you to do. If you've asked Him to forgive you of a sin, and you are supposed to try to not continue in that sin. After I got saved, you say this is a very small one, Peter. It's very light. But it may be light. But if God shows it to you, it's heavy. For instance, I smoke. And I was going up to the jailhouse preaching after I got saved. And I found out that the men in the jail didn't think much of a preacher that smoked. They seen a preacher smoking, they just told him, don't bother to come back here and preach. I don't want to hear you. If you can't live separated enough in your life so that you can put cigarettes away, then you ain't very close to God. And I don't want to hear what you got to say. And that's the way people thought about it in the jailhouse. So I had to get rid of those cigarettes. It was difficult for me. I loved them things. I love to smoke more than anything in the world. I could put 3 cigarettes in my mouth at one time. Hey, but God delivered me from them things. Wow. If we're going to be taught by God, whenever He smites our heart and convicts us about something, we've got to get rid of it. What about lying? A big lie or a little lie? All lies are the same. A lie is a lie. If it's not correct, it's a lie. We need to work toward not lying. Oh man, it's so much easier to lie than it is to tell the truth sometimes. He said, for thy name's sake, pardon mine iniquity. For thy name's sake. For it is great. Mine iniquity is great. You know, any iniquity is great. What is iniquity? A saved man can have some sins that aren't iniquity. That is all of a sudden, bam, he catches a fish. Fish is that long. He comes in and he said, I caught one that long. Well, there's a big difference right there. You see it? And that's a lie. But that might not be iniquity unless the man does it on a regular basis. Now, if he lies all the time when he opens his mouth, then it becomes iniquity. It becomes something that doesn't belong with a Christian. A Christian is not supposed to tell a mistruth or a lie. He's supposed to tell the truth. Brother Peter, have you had a problem with that? Yes, I have. Have you had a problem in the past with that? Yes, I have. Have you had a problem, Brother Peter, in the present with that? Yes, I have. Yeah, I'm the kind of guy that likes to say that fish was that long. I'm the kind of guy that likes to say, I didn't weigh it, but I think it weighed 12 pounds. It probably made 2.5. Hey, if we're not careful, we're all in the same boat. We're human beings. Do you know something? Human beings always want to be right, even when they're dead wrong. I have seen some strong-willed people that were dead wrong, but they would stand on it to death. Even though they were dead wrong. I think I probably got some of that in me. I think we all got some of that in us. We want to be right. So therefore we got to be careful. To dwell in God's house until death. Wow. That was the desire of David. To dwell in God's house until death. To behold the beauty of the Lord. What is the beauty today? What is the beauty of the Lord? That is to follow Him instead of the world. That is to be delivered from this degraded world that we live in. Can you snap on the television and watch a naked scene of a man or woman or whatever and not be bothered by it? Then you're part of it. You're part of the world that does it then if it don't bother you. But if it bothers you, then you are freed from this degradation of the world. And you just might not even be able to watch television at all. I was home by myself yesterday, the whole day, and studying, reading the book, Bible, and whatever. Didn't turn the TV on one bit all day. Why? My desire is not to see what's on that television. My desire is to see God, to live with God, to learn and pray and inquire. I've got too much to do to be caught up in the world today. To inquire in His temple. That's the church house. I love to go and work at the church. I love it. I'm getting older now. I don't do as much work there as I did. I have a son that's taking my place down there. I go down there, and I don't care when I go down there. It seems like I don't matter. He's always there, and he's always working. Well, that was me when I was younger. And now I'm older. My work days are less, but my prayer days may be more. And my willingness to pray for those that are coming. We have a preacher there right now. I need to pray for. Lord, watch over him. Lord, give him what you'd have him say tonight. He's in a revival. This will I seek after. The temple may refer to God's place in heaven. Listen, what we do on this earth is recorded in heaven. If you're saved, you've got a recording going on in heaven. It's going on before the throne of God now. We have an accuser. Is your accuser watching you so that if you sin or fall off or do something that would be opposite to God, that he says to God, hey, there he is, God, I see him doing that. I see him do that. And God says, I got it under control. He might do it this time, but he probably never do it again. And I will convict his soul. And God convicts the soul of man. Verse 7 of Psalm 26 says this, that I may publish with the voice of thanksgiving and tell of all thy wondrous works. Tell of all the wondrous works of God. Wow. And publish with thanksgiving the wonderful works of God. Wow. Ain't that something? Verse 8, Lord, I have loved the habitation of thy house, and the place where thine honor dwelleth. Wow. I love to go to church. I absolutely, positive, 100% love to go to church. And I love to fellowship with the people at church. Do I know most of them? I know them at church. I know their spiritual side at church. I know somewhat of them, and I like to fellowship with them. And that's enjoyable. I will wash mine hands in innocency, so will I compass thine altar, O Lord. Do you know that nearly every time I'm in church, I have the impression that it's a good place to go to the altar and to openly confess the Lord Jesus and to not be ashamed to walk down to the altar. If you can't walk down and bow your knee in front of a group of people because the people are there, you have a problem. That you worry about your own personal thought more than you think about God. If you didn't do anything but just get the victory over getting out of your seat and going down to the altar, that would be better than not doing it. If you're convicted to move. If you're not convicted to move, you may not be close enough to God to hear him. You got to be close enough to God to hear him. Look at verse 20, Psalm 27. Let's take a quick look at that. David had some distresses in his life, and he had a little distress right here. He said, the Lord is my light. The Lord is my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is my strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even mine enemies and my foes, came upon me to eat up my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Though an host should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. The war should rise against me. In this will I be confident. One thing I have desired of the Lord, that I will seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. Hey, the temple that I go to, the temple I live in right here in this body, is the temple of the Lord. And Jesus came into my heart and lives in my heart. So he's in this temple. But then I go to a temple, I go to a church down the street, about 30 miles from here. And I like to be there no less than 3 times a week, usually more, but at least 3 times a week, Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday. And I like worshiping in that temple. I like going in there and worshiping. And I love for the Lord to fill my heart, and I love to worship him. For in the time of trouble, he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me upon a rock. Man, if I have a rock in my life, it's Jesus Christ. If I have a rock in my life, it's the church. If I have a rock in my life, it's the temple of God. If I have a rock in my life, it is God himself. He is the rock that I'm building my house on. It is a sure rock. It is an eternal rock. It is a rock that will be forever, forever and forever. And now shall mine head be lifted up above mine enemies round about me. Therefore I will offer in his tabernacle sacrifice of joy. I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto the Lord. What a relief to be able to go just on Wednesday night in the middle of the week. You went Sunday, Monday and Tuesday passed, and all day Wednesday, but Wednesday night you can come into the house of the Lord and sing his praises and leave this wicked world behind you and go and worship God and lift your hands and praise the Lord and shout and be free. And go down to the altar, kneel and pray to God in public. And be free. Free from the world and the degradation of the world. Be free. And God's praises and joy and singing will be in you. Last night, well, a few hours ago, man behind me, singing the praises of God. A man that I know had been through some real heartache in the last couple of years. Been through some real serious things happened in his family in the last couple of years. Yet he's there singing the praises of God. If he wasn't, he'd be miserable. If he wasn't, this is your outlet. If you don't have this, you need to get it. Hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. Have mercy also upon me and answer me. When thou saidst, seek my face, my heart said unto thee, thy face, Lord, will I seek. Wow. On a daily basis, I have to seek the face of the Lord. Hey, if I don't seek the face of the Lord, I'm a miserable human being. I'm probably one of the puniest, miserablest human beings you ever met in your life if I'm not in the Lord. I got to be in the Lord. I used to be as mean as a snake. Meaner than a snake. If you were to know some of the things I encountered in my life, you'd say that man ought to be in prison for all of his life. And I should have been in the flesh for what I lived when I was younger. Should have been put in prison. It wouldn't have changed me. You know what I'd have been? I'd have been just as mean in prison. Little I was, but I would have backed up the biggest man in there. If they had wanted to put me down in the prison house, they'd have had to kill me. And yet God's made me now meek as a lamb, harmless as a dove. I can love anybody, anywhere, anytime that does anything. God loved everybody. Do you know he loved the pedophile? He loved the homosexual. He still does. He loves that soul of that person. He does not love this sin, but he loves the person. All persons have a soul, and God's interested in the soul. The soul is an eternal thing. It's going to go live with God forever. The body's going to go to the grave and decay. From dust we came, from earth we came, and dust we return. But the soul and the spirit live forever and be with God. A new body? Yes, we're going to have a new body. We'll have a new body in heaven. And what will that body look like? I don't know, but I know this. It's going to look like this one because people are going to know me for who I am. And I'm going to know them for who they are. And when Jesus came back from the grave, he said to Thomas, put your hand in these holes in my body. Put your hand in my side where they stuck the spear in me. And he came back in that same body. Now our bodies are going to be changed, our eternal bodies, after we're in heaven. And we're there for our eternal abode. And everything is put behind us. And the battle of Armageddon has passed. And the new heaven and the new earth have come down, and we're going to be on that, and our bodies are going to be changed, and we're going to be like him. I don't know what that's going to be like. I know one thing. The Bible said it hasn't even entered the mind of mind, the goodness that God has for us and what he has for us. Hasn't entered the mind of mind, the mind of man. And so he said, hear when I cry, David said. Have mercy on me. Answer me. Hide not your face from me. Put not your servant away in anger. Leave me not, neither forsake me. Teach me your ways. Lead me in your plain paths. I like that. He put that word in there. Plain. The Bible's as plain as the nose on your face. And we need to ask God to lead us in that plain way. Deliver me. Not to the will of mine enemies, but to your will, God. That's what I ask the Lord. Lord, keep me in your will. Help me not to fall. And he said he will hide me in his pavilion. He will keep me in the secret place of his tabernacle. He will set me upon a rock. He will lift me up above mine enemies who are around me. Because of God, my petition will offer sacrifice of joy and sing praises to him. Wow. The Lord is my light, my salvation, my trust, my strength, my life, my confidence. He is my protector from the wicked. Wow. God has protected me from wicked things that have come down the path, and God has protected me from them for years. He's protected me from my enemies. He's been my refuge. He's been my help in a time of war. By the way, when you ask Jesus to save you, you go to war with the devil. These books sitting behind me that you see, some of them are different Bibles. I have the King James Version sitting in front of me that I study. Some of those back there say NIV on them, and I take that and I compare it to what the real Bible is, and the NIV changed some words. And because they changed the words, they made it wrong, and it won't work. It won't work in prayer. It won't work in fellowship. It won't work in following God, because they took out some things. Some of those Bibles I've got back there took out the fact that Mary was a virgin. They say she was just a young maiden. Some of those Bibles back there that I've got that are called Bibles would almost tell you that Mary was an illicit woman and went with some German soldier. Hey, some of those books back there are false books. You say, why do you have them, Brother Peter? I have them because people quote out of them to me. And I want to go back and compare and show them that what they're quoting me is not true. That is an absolute falsehood. And if you follow that, you're not going to get saved. You're going to end up doing 12 steps of works to try to get to heaven. And man can't work his way to heaven. Heaven's a gift. It's a gift from God. The only way you can get it is by saying, Jesus, I am a sinner. Forgive me of my sin. Come in my heart and save my soul. By faith, you accept him. And then you get in this book and start studying it. But if you study the wrong book, it will take you the wrong way. It's by faith in Jesus you're saved, not by your works. If it was by your works, there'd be a lot of people could go to heaven because they look like they're good. But they're rotten in the heart. And that's where it all matters. The heart's the only thing that communes with God. And this is where it is. So therefore, there's a set of books right there. They're Bible. And they're correct. They're true. They're from the King James Version. And they're stories of the Bible. That's the whole Bible written book by book. And I can read it and study it book by book. I'm in college now. I'm studying now book by book in the Old Testament. I studied about, you remember there was a war in the United States between the states. And they got split in half, north and south. Well, there was a war over in Israel. And Israel got split in half. There was a southern kingdom and a northern kingdom. There were several kings, like 19 kings in the southern kingdom. There were like 21 kings in the northern kingdom. All of the kings in the southern kingdom were wicked. All the kings in the northern kingdom, some of them were righteous. And we study that. By studying the Bible, breaking it down and looking at it, we can find out that the Bible is written. It is a book of history of God's people. And there is a book being written now of God's people in heaven. And our name is written down in that book. It's called the Book of Life, the Lamb's Book of Life. Is your name written in that Book of Life? That's the eternal Book of Life. There is a book of death. And if your name is not in the book of life, it's written down in the book of eternal death. What is eternal death? Eternal death is hellfire forever with the devil. Forever and ever and ever. No retreat, no place to get out. No place to ever get out. You will be there forever if you die and go to hell. It is important that you get saved. You say, Jesus, forgive me of my sin, come in my heart, save my soul. That's important. You need to do that if you haven't done that. Well, we're in Psalm 28 now. Let's look at it. Unto thee will I cry, O Lord, my rock. Be not silent to me, lest if thou be silent to me, I become like them that go down to the pit. Wow. I don't want God to be silent to me. Hear the voice of my supplication when I cry unto thee, when I lift up my hands toward thy holy oracle. When I'm in church, sometimes I do in bed. I'm laying in bed and I got my hands lifted up. I'm praying to God. Sometimes when I'm sitting here in this chair and I may not have the computer on, I'm lifting up my hands to God. The God of heaven. Draw me. Draw me, he said. Not away with the wicked, and with the workers of iniquity, which speak. We got to turn our page. I always got two pages always stuck together. Thy peace of the neighborhoods, mischief is in their hearts. And he says, draw me not there, but let me be in your house, Lord. Give them according to their deeds, and according to the wickedness of their endeavors. Give them after the works of their hands, render to them their desert. Because they regard not the works of the Lord, nor the operation of his hands, he shall destroy them and not build them up. You know, God has built me up and my wife. You know, we're among the poor folks of the world. We're working people. We have to work for a living and to have food in the refrigerator. You have to work to eat. And if you're a working man today, you're considered a poor man today, a working man. And we're probably considered poor people, but we're the wealthiest people in the world. We can be happy with what we've got. We can be happy with what God's given us. And that makes us wealthy in the eyes of God. And that's where I want to be, wealthy in the eyes of God, that I have him in my heart and I don't have to worry. And I don't have to worry about heaven, all the things of the world, to try to be happy. My happiness is in the Lord Jesus. Yours can be too. Ask him to help you. Get in the book. Get in the Bible. Start studying. Find some good study helps in the King James Version. And you can find them in almost any good church, a good. I'm not singling out any church, but I go to a Baptist church where we use the King James Version. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.